Yay. Alright, hello everyone. Now, you may be thinking, Winfer, what are you doing? You're starting a YouTube channel. You fool! And an animation YouTube channel. You fool! Yes. Yes, I know. You're right. For the past week, I've been watching a bunch of random animators, and I've noticed a common trend. Now, I could be blind, and maybe, just potentially, possibly, perhaps, maybe possibly, they don't post very often. And it's because animation videos take a lot of time. And I don't want them to. So, for some reason, I've decided to make an animation YouTube channel. I'm crazy. Anywho, so for my first video, I'd have to, think about something to talk about. And as I was sitting in my chair, I was like, you know what? We'll talk about Mr. L. Now, you don't know who Mr. L is, but you're about to. Mr. L was a high school teacher that I had as I was going through high school. Wow! And well, he was an interesting fellow. Picture this. At the beginning of my high school experience, imagine a well-dressed man, button shirt, dress shoes, tall, confident. And now, I want you to picture this man digress into a slow descent to Waluigi. Yeah, he was a character. Grade 9 rolls around, and my first experience with Mr. L is grade 9 English. And the more I think about it, the funnier it gets. Mr. L was a relatively new teacher. He was, I think, in his early 20s, so the grade 12s were only a couple years younger than him. So that led to interesting dynamics. But before I get ahead of myself, I'll circle back to him being a new teacher. Now, Mr. L, I'll be honest, he was the classiest teacher in the school. Yep. His classroom was crisp. No tacky posters, clean. And the man had a stinking area rug for his classroom. An area rug! I was impressed. But the problem is that Mr. L always liked to try things, unconventionally. Day one, I walk into class, and all the desks are in groups of 5 to 6, like little circled things. So you really hope you got a sweet group of classmates sitting with you, because you can bet he's enforcing this seating plan. Well, Winfer, you may ask, what's wrong with an interesting seating plan? No! It's not just one. He had a folder, I imagine, of different plans. To list a couple, there was the party setup, the pray you aren't in the middle, second row setup, the free-for-all setup. There were loads. Going into class on the first day of every month was always an adventure. You didn't know who you'd be sitting beside, let alone where. Now, I was also kind of a jerk when it came to Mr. L. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. But I was also a little grade 9 dummy. And so, since he was an English teacher, a relatively new English teacher, I would kind of ask him questions I figured he wouldn't know the answers to. Mr. L, if I'm trying to use a semicolon and I want to attach 2 sentences together with a colon, but I want to have a list of pizzas before the semicolon, where should I put that in the sentence? Yeah, I never got an amazing spot in the seating plans. Okay, I said a descent into a form of Waluigi. Now, perhaps I think of it like this because I learned more about Mr. L, or possibly dealing with me for 4 consecutive years also played a role. It really is unclear. One thing I want to touch down on was his feet. You remember how I said that Mr. L was the classiest guy in the school? Well, he was, when he wanted to be. He didn't want to be a large portion of the time. For this reason, you would see his shoes under his desk, more often than on his feet. This wouldn't typically matter. Who cares? He's in his socks. But there was an issue. There was a reason he took off his shoes. Imagine, every time his foot touches the ground, there was peace. Every time he lifted his hot, moist foot off the ground, there was a wet, dark splotch on the tile. You could see a trail of dark, moist footprints from where he was walking from. And if you accidentally stepped on one of these said spots, your soul would be wheezing. You think I'm talking about the human soul? No, I'm talking about your shoe. It was liquid death. It had to be. They lingered. The spots lingered. All right, one last story. Now, during one of his classes, the principal came in and sat down in the back to watch him teach. Now, Mr. L knew the principal was going to come and watch, and Mr. L is still a new teacher. So this is kind of like a job evaluation, and so he really cares about it. And the funny thing is he actually briefed the class, from what I remember. I think he briefed the class so as to, when the principal is here, act good, which was kind of funny. Oh, and he also makes a point to wear his dress shoes. There's no moist splotches today. Anyway, he's teaching, doing well. The class is being quiet, not being too disagreeable, so he looks good. And all of a sudden, the principal, he stands up, smiles, says,
"Mr. L is still doing a good job."
And, well, he leaves. So we're all expecting him to, continue class. And Mr. L, he doesn't say anything. He waits. You can hear the principal's footsteps going down the hallway. And once he thinks it's been long enough, he immediately stretches out his legs. He kicks his shoes off across the classroom, and he whips off his dress coat and shouts, "I'm dying in here!" He reveals two of the largest sweat stains I have ever seen. He raises his arms to the sky and shows us. Yup. The floor was wet and it became stinky. What can I say? Good old Mr. L.